weren't supposed to watch this video before now. If it had found you last year, last month, or even last week, you would have ignored it. You would have scrolled past it, dismissed it, or maybe clicked for a second without feeling anything. But today, something is different. Something in you is ready. Carl Jung believed that the psyche reveals truth only when we are prepared to face it. He called this phenomenon synchronicity, the strange way life places exactly the right message, the right person, or the right experience in your path at the exact moment you need it. Not earlier, not later, precisely on time. That's why this feels eerie. It feels like the video found you, not the other way around. Because Jung would say, that's exactly what happened. The unconscious, the deeper part of you, has guided you here. And the reason is simple. You weren't supposed to watch this before, because before, you would have resisted it. Think about all the times you've stumbled across words of wisdom, but they didn't touch you. Quotes, books, advice. You heard them, but they didn't stick. They bounced off your ego like rain on glass. Why? Because the ego wasn't ready to hear what the unconscious knew all along. And so, the truth remained hidden until life broke you open. That's what makes today different. If you are listening to this, it means something in your life has shifted. Maybe it's heartbreak. Maybe it's betrayal. Maybe it's loss, failure, or that quiet exhaustion that makes even the things you once loved feel empty. Whatever it is, it has cracked you just enough for truth to seep in. Jung said that the unconscious waits patiently. It does not rush you. It knows that forcing you to see the truth too early would only make you reject it. So it waits. It waits through your mistakes, your illusions, your distractions. It lets you chase what will never fulfill you until the day you are tired enough to stop running. That day is today. That's why this video is in front of you. You weren't supposed to see this before because you weren't ready to face yourself. You weren't ready to confront the shadow, the parts of you you've denied, hidden, or buried under masks. To face the shadow is terrifying. It means admitting that the people you loved were illusions. It means realizing that the goals you chased were distractions. It means seeing that your pain has been your teacher all along. Before, you weren't strong enough to handle that. You were too invested in the mask, too comfortable in the illusion, too afraid of what you might lose if you told yourself the truth. And so, the unconscious protected you, not by giving you the truth, but by hiding it until you were strong enough to survive it. That is why Jung believed timing is everything. The psyche has its own clock, not the one on your wall, not the one on your phone, but the one inside your soul. And when the hour strikes, the message arrives. That is why you weren't supposed to watch this video before now. But today, the clock inside you struck midnight, and destiny pushed play. So let me ask you, what has happened in your life recently? What has shifted? Has someone walked out of your life, leaving you with unanswered questions? Has something you relied on collapsed, leaving you staring into emptiness? Or maybe nothing big happened, but you've woken up with a heaviness you can't explain, a whisper inside that says, something isn't right. That whisper is your unconscious speaking. And when you finally listen, synchronicity begins. That's why you're here. That's why this video didn't appear last month, last year, or when you thought you needed it. Because you didn't need it then. You needed to suffer more. You needed to fail more. You needed to feel emptier. Because only emptiness makes room for truth. Jung wrote, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The darkness had to rise in you before this message could reach you. That's why you weren't supposed to see this before. You were still running from the darkness. But now, it has caught you. And that is why you are here, staring into words that feel as if they are speaking directly to you. Because they are. Not because I know you, but because Jung's psychology knows the soul. It knows the timing. It knows that when the unconscious is ready, it will place exactly what you need right in front of you. The question is, will you listen this time? Because you can't go back. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you now feel in your chest as you hear these words. This isn't just a video. It's a mirror. And you weren't supposed to see it before, because before, you would have smashed the mirror. But today, you are finally willing to look. This is the beginning. The unconscious has brought you here not for entertainment, not for distraction, but for transformation. You are not watching by chance. You are watching because you are ready. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious has its own sense of timing. He wrote that until we are forced to face ourselves, we will keep repeating the same cycles of suffering. And that is the secret behind why you weren't supposed to watch this video earlier. The unconscious hid it from you. Because if you had seen it too soon, you would have dismissed it. The truth doesn't reveal itself to the comfortable. It waits for the moment when illusions crack, when your defenses weaken, when your pride is broken enough to let light enter. Until then, you don't notice the signs. The same message might have appeared in your feed 100 times before, but your eyes passed over it as if it wasn't there. That wasn't accident. That was delay. Jung would say your psyche was protecting you, because truth revealed too soon feels like violence. It can overwhelm you, destroy your fragile stability, and leave you worse off. The unconscious doesn't want that. It wants growth, so it waits patiently until you're desperate enough to need it and strong enough to carry it. Think about your own life. Hasn't there been wisdom you only understood after heartbreak? A book that sat on your shelf for years until one day you opened it and every word felt like it was written for you? Advice someone gave you long ago that meant nothing at the time, but today it feels like prophecy? That is the hidden delay at work. You weren't supposed to see it before because you weren't ready. The cycle of delay. Let's break it down. The unconscious withholds truth through 3 stages. The illusion stage. You are still clinging to what isn't real. A relationship you know is toxic. A job that is killing your spirit. A mask that hides who you really are. At this stage, if truth comes to you, you reject it. You say, "That doesn't apply to me." So the unconscious stays quiet. The collapse stage. Illusions begin to break. The relationship ends. The job drains you. The mask becomes heavy. Pain enters. You resist. You fight. You bargain. But slowly, the unconscious is weakening your defenses. The readiness stage. Finally, after enough collapse, you stop fighting. You accept that what you thought was permanent was always temporary. You let yourself feel the emptiness. This is when the unconscious opens the door. This is when synchronicity strikes. And that is why this video didn't find you before. You were still in the illusion or collapse stages. But now, you are in readiness. And that's why you are hearing these words. Real life signs. You weren't ready. Jung believed that readiness could be measured by your relationship with pain. Before, when pain arrived, you resisted it. You distracted yourself with noise, with people, with endless scrolling, with anything to keep from feeling it. You said, "I'll be fine." But you weren't fine. You were running. That's why wisdom couldn't reach you then, because wisdom doesn't speak to the running. It speaks to the broken. Maybe you're realizing this now. The same kind of relationship that once pulled you in now feels shallow. The same distractions that once numbed you now feel empty. The same promises you once believed now sound hollow. That is how you know you're finally ready. The truth was delayed until your illusions lost their power. Why the delay is necessary. It might feel unfair. Why couldn't you have learned this earlier? Why didn't you see it before you made those mistakes, before you suffered those losses? Jung's answer is simple. Because the suffering itself was the preparation. Without heartbreak, you would still confuse possession for love. Without betrayal, you would still trust masks over reality. Without loss, you would still cling to illusions of permanence. Without emptiness, you would never search for meaning. Pain is the teacher. The delay is the curriculum. You weren't supposed to see this before because your soul still had lessons to learn in the dark. The unconscious knew you couldn't skip those chapters. They were shaping you. They were breaking the parts of you that could never survive the truth. That is why the timing is perfect. This video isn't late. It isn't early. It's on time. The psychology of delay. Jung explained that the unconscious holds archetypes, ancient patterns that play out in all human lives. One of them is the seeker. The seeker doesn't awaken until suffering forces them to leave comfort behind. Before then, you are not a seeker, you are a sleeper. And sleepers cannot recognize truth. That's why delay is not punishment, it's protection. The unconscious keeps truth hidden until the seeker in you awakens. And when it does, everything that once seemed invisible begins to shine with meaning. You notice the message, you hear the words, you feel the synchronicity, and you realize it was always there. You just weren't ready to see it. The shift in you. Think of your life as two versions, the one who wasn't ready and the one who is listening home, the one who wasn't. Carl Jung believed that the most powerful truths do not arrive when we want them. They arrive when we can no longer live without them. And that is why you are here. This video is not entertainment. It is not coincidence. It is synchronicity. The unconscious placing in front of you what you were not supposed to see until today. The darkest truth is that life has been preparing you for this. Every heartbreak, every failure, every sleepless night, every emptiness you could not explain. They were not accidents. They were the chisels carving away the illusions you once clung to. They were the storms that cracked the walls you hid behind. And without those storms, you would not have been ready for this moment. You see, the unconscious does not give you truth when you ask for it. It gives it to you when you are strong enough to bear it. That's why you didn't see this before. You weren't strong enough. You were still holding on to masks, still chasing illusions, still distracting yourself with the shallow comforts of life. If you had seen these words back then, you would have scrolled past, rolled your eyes, or laughed it off. But today, you stopped. Today, you listened. And that means something inside you has changed. The shadow behind love and pain. Jung taught that the shadow, the hidden, unacknowledged part of ourselves, guides much of our life. We project it onto others. We chase it in relationships. We run from it in addictions. And we suffer because of it. The reason truth waits is because the shadow cannot be faced lightly. To confront it is to risk everything you thought you were. That's why love often turns into pain, why passion becomes betrayal, why joy dissolves into emptiness. It is the shadow breaking through your illusions, demanding that you look at yourself. And until you are tired enough, broken enough, desperate enough, you won't. You will keep running. That is why you weren't supposed to watch this until now. Because now, finally, the running has stopped. The moment of readiness. Readiness is not a feeling of confidence. It is not certainty. It is not strength. Readiness is surrender. It is the moment you say, I can't keep doing this to myself. It is when you admit that your patterns are destroying you. It is when you confess that the comfort you chased is actually killing your soul. That is readiness. And that is why you are here. Because only in readiness can transformation begin. Jung's word for this transformation was individuation. It is the process of becoming whole, of no longer living as a mask, a role, or an illusion, but as your true self. It is not easy. It is not comfortable. It requires you to walk through your own shadow. But once you begin, you cannot go back. And that is why the unconscious waited. Because once you start this journey, your life will never be the same. What happens now? If you are hearing this, it means the self, the deepest part of you, has decided it is time. You are not supposed to return to the life you had before. That life is already dead. The relationship that broke you, the job that drained you, the masks that suffocated you, they are gone, even if you're still clinging to them. Now begins the journey inward. Now begins the confrontation with your shadow. Now begins individuation. It will not be easy. You will doubt yourself. You will want to turn back. You will feel the temptation to numb yourself again with comfort, distraction, or shallow pleasures. But you cannot go back because you have already seen too much. The unconscious does not reveal truth only to let you return to ignorance. It demands that you change. Jung's final warning. Jung often warned that if we ignore the unconscious when it calls, it will return with even more force. The message will keep coming back in harsher and harsher forms until you finally listen. That's why so many people keep repeating the same heartbreaks, the same failures, the same emptiness. They are ignoring the call. You are not supposed to ignore this call anymore. That's why this video found you. The revelation itself. Here is the revelation. You were not supposed to see this until the exact moment when your soul was ready to begin its transformation. And that moment is now. This is not just a video. It is a mirror that shows you that you cannot keep living as you were, a mirror that tells you the delay is over, a mirror that reflects the truth you've been running from. The old self has died, and the new one is waiting to be born. You were not supposed to watch this yet, but now you are. And that means everything. The choice. Now you have a choice. You can close this video, distract yourself, and try to return to sleep. But you will never be the same. The unconscious will not let you. The message will echo. The shadow will keep knocking. The next time, it will knock harder. Or you can act. You can begin the work. You can face your shadow, integrate your pain, and step into individuation. You can begin to live as the self instead of the mask. That is the choice this video has placed before you. And that is why you weren't supposed to see it until now. Because now you are finally ready to choose. So I'll leave you with this. Do you feel it? The pull in your chest? The sense that these words are not random, but written for you? That is synchronicity. That is destiny. That is your unconscious telling you that the waiting is over. You weren't supposed to see this before, but you are seeing it now. And that means it's time. If these words spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and consider sending a super thanks. Because the more we uncover Jung's hidden truths, the more people like you will find the message exactly when they're meant to. Not before, not after, but now.